Hey, Peyton. Nice
What's
to see
up?
you again. And welcome to AIDEAS Podcast. This time we have Aaron Levy, the CEO of Box, quoting the capability overhang right now in AI is pretty massive. Most of the world still thinks of AI as chatbots that will answer a question on demand, but not yet do real work for them. Peyton, you as an entrepreneur, what does reality look like for you in your day-to-day operations using AI?
Yeah, really excited to talk about this. The capability overhang is crazy right now in terms of there's this superpower intelligence tool right here in our hands. And a lot of the problem at this very moment is looking at where are the most leveraged opportunities for me to deploy this to get something that's way better than I myself created 2 years ago. And so, just some examples from this past week for me. I basically asked it, okay, I run these ads on this platform. Tell me what data to download in order that you can run a full analysis on it and tell me how to optimize it. And it said, okay, pull it by week since this. And I said, I want to optimize what budgets I'm allocating towards what in order to cut everything off before it reaches my incrementality threshold I need the incremental last $200 I spend to get me at least one lead. Otherwise, it's going to be below threshold above that budget level. And so it told me, okay, pull it like this. And then I uploaded it to the three frontier AIs, consolidated them into Claude, and probably increased my improved my cost per lead by 20% and found exactly the point of diminishing returns for this. Same than I did with Google Ads. And then I said, okay, I did not know what I was doing when I set up this Google ad campaign. Tell me what I can pull and upload to you in less than 30 minutes. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it because I don't have time. And said, okay, you can do this in 5 minutes, and then I will tell you if there's low hanging fruit. So I did, and I was like, oh yeah, you can improve your results by probably 30% by doing these two quick things. And so, bub, bub, bub. And all of a sudden, those two things were right there, but it wasn't until I thought to apply this resource to this problem that it did it. The bigger example for me this week is last year I came up with a plan to do SEO for my two websites, and I realized that this is going to take 80 to 100 hours of tedious implementation work to actually do, plus maybe another many hours of writing, even if it's AI assisted. And so I did a tiny bit and then I shelved 90% of it. And then this past week, I was like, hey, Cloud Code's pretty good right now. Could I just like hook that up to the back end of I don't know anything about coding and I'm not technical. And so I don't want to do this if it's going to be hard at all. But is it going to be totally easy and just kind of feel like a magic wand to just hook this up to my website, download this in, and then it just does it all for me? And then it was like, yep, it could probably do 60% of it completely automated. And so I was like, and so I created this big playbook. I combined all this stuff I had, and then I hooked it up to Cloud Code and just had it running in the background and just hit yes, proceed, proceed, proceed through it. And it did what would have cost probably $40,000 or $50,000 for an agency to do it, and a really high strategic value. But this overhang was there to where last week, 1 week ago, I didn't do this because I didn't think to do it. And so this thinking to apply this great intelligence, this producer of high quality outputs to wherever these areas are in our businesses or our personal lives that we want these high quality outputs, this is there. But a lot of times it's connecting this intelligence with the actual problems. A couple other examples real quick. I also ran my workout routine through these frontier models a week ago, and it found a way that I can get better results with 30% less time. And it's much more scientifically robust approach. And this overhang was there to where 2 weeks ago, before I thought to do this, I was just having a less efficient workout routine every week. It was right there for me to connect this activity with this source of intelligence to improve my approach to it. But I wasn't doing it. Last example I'll give just from this past week is I run this print ad every month and I spend $4,000 running this print ad. That's how much leverage is behind it in terms of resources on a monthly basis. And so I uploaded it to these models. I was like, hey, give me feedback. Can this get significantly better results just by changing the creative? And it found like 5 really good ideas on like, oh yeah, these are industry best practices. This is my confidence level. This is the size of this. And I combine them into just a design prompt of revisions that I'll be able to ship to my graphic designer over in Asia with $20 and get a much better ad that will probably get I don't know, somewhere between 25 and 50% better results on a monthly basis for the next year off of
Yeah.
maybe a 20-minute exercise. These are the overhangs where until we think to apply this intelligence toward the areas of leverage in our business or in our personal life, it won't happen on its own. But a lot of times it's just about looking and understanding the field to assess, is this an opportunity to get a meaningful improvement in my way
Mhm.
of doing something that's leveraged and importantly, easy to deploy and integrate, which I'd like to circle back to in a bit. How do you
Yeah.
think about this capabilities overhang broadly? So these are examples that I have just from this past week. What does this look like in the world? What is the capabilities overhang of this intelligence that we have in hand right now? And I would highlight Claude Opus as 10 days ago intelligence that we got in our hand versus all of the areas that it could be deployed and hasn't been leveraged throughout the world.
We've all been using AI models and chat AI systems for the past years now, and we did a lot of stuff with them. But the difference between the outputs which it can generate now and the real work it can handle for you now, complexity, connecting the dots, analyzing a bunch of data to get some serious insights which can increase your budget allocation effectivity, increase the bang for the buck in all of your business areas by percentage, like 10%, 20%, or 30% even, or even like multitudes. Maybe it's better if you focus on one specific thing and don't waste your budget on the things which don't work. Uh, this is immense. And the technology is on the cutting edge and it's very ripe in that sense. There is OpenClaw, like an assistant system, which when you run it with Opus, does really good jobs and is like the agent loop. It decides for itself what to do about it, when to do it, and has the tools at hand which you have at hand using your computer. So everything you can do on your computer, even if you're a developer, even if you're not a developer, but you have a computer with development capabilities, it can do the thing for you you did on your computer. The only thing lacking right now is like discernment and taste, and for sure security. There are big open questions, but there's also the possibility to do something about it. But what is lacking is like the space of possible improvements which could be done in your enterprise, for example, needs to be discovered first. So you don't ask, what can I do about a specific kind of problem if you find yourself facing a bottleneck? You ask yourself, what can AI help me do about that? Maybe it's just through switching perspectives, just through cutting through the noise in all of your data you have to get to the signal so that you can extract the signal from all the data you have and then implement the effective solution. So it's not about wasting time anymore. It's about increasing your effective action. And in my opinion, it is best done with either you get help from the outside, people who already did it and already have the knack for it and the system to get to the right questions and get to the right points and solution possibilities with AI, or you can tinker around and get to the points where the actual bottlenecks in your business are. Where is the possibility to improve transparency, worker communication? Where's the possibility to decrease friction for effective outputs or effective insights? So most of the time in our companies, there is a lot of data available. But what if we can just drag and drop this data into a system we created with AI according to our idea of getting to the signal in the data, and then chart a draft, a line where we see the development of the specific thing in question.
An example of that from
Give
this
the
past week.
example.
We use a Google form when we have a service request. When we install a window and there's some issue, maybe the window is leaking or there was a quality issue or the customer had to call us to have us fix something. And so we had this Google sheet where we've had 120 of these from the past couple of years. And what I did this past week was I uploaded this list to Claude and said, "Hey, go into this messy text enter no categories data and actually categorize these 120." And then it did, and it said, "Okay, these 5 types of mistakes are what generate 85% of these service issues." And then I said, "Great, I'm building this kind of checklist to end out the job. I want you to take the types of checklist items we do, these 5 things at the end of every job, and actually change the checklist so that it will directly address remembering to do the things that lead to these 5 most common types of complaints that we get." And so it revised the checklist. And now every time at the end of the job, our installers will check off on these 5 steps that are necessary to prevent 85% of our service issues, which is when we have to drive back out, which is when the customer is less happy. It causes extra costs. It delays when we can complete the job, and it delays the cash cycle for that reason. And so this data was useless when it was just me because there was no categorization. It was just messy text. And now it actually found a signal in the noise and then directly was able to implement that signal into the specific targeted concrete actions that we want our installers to remember, these 5 steps every time before you leave a job. And so this is the end to end of turning data into actually action that can lead to better results.
You mentioned something very useful. Always have the customer in mind with that. What we want is like better productivity for higher value products for and services for our customers. So the world benefits from us employing AI to improve our systems which run the operations, improve what our people can do in terms of using their creativity, using their unique personality to bring value to the customers or to bring value to the people which are operating inside the system. So you can do a lot of that to improve value for your customer and increase your capability and your organization's capability to adapt to the feedback you get from the real world. But you have to get the idea first. You experiment a lot with it. You tinker around. You have local LLMs running on your powerful Mac device. You connect a harness to your local LLMs and downloaded the whole Wikipedia, and you will have a backup. So you have an intelligence at your place. It's about also preparing for cases where errors can happen. So what if, in your case, what if there's no provider accessible anymore for at least 3 weeks or for 2 days even? It will be a lost opportunity to be able to work with applying intelligence to the specific bottlenecks. So you are prepared for that. And then you are prepared for applying specific intelligence to your bottlenecks and solving a lot of issues which won't come up after that because you prepare to avoid the mistakes which could happen if you wouldn't gather the feedback and apply it to your new checklist, for example, to your system, so that it won't produce the error you have to take care of afterwards anymore. So it's about the consequences of the consequences as well.
And I will avoid taking the bait of going down a tangent about Operation Volt Typhoon and how the grid in the US is very fragile. And I will instead direct the conversation toward a framework that I think is useful for capability overhang. This framework is, if you have a business that's a real business with real teams, with real humans doing stuff in the real world, then, and you have this source of functionally infinite, high quality outputs and intelligence and better ways of doing things, your bottleneck then ceases to be high quality outputs and methods and systems and SOPs, which was what it was 3 years ago. Back 3 years ago, I would lock myself in a room for 15 hours on a Saturday with Adderall to develop SOPs and to build ads and to create catalogs and to build websites and write text and write systems and invent ways to do stuff. And that was the key bottleneck that prevented my business from moving forward, is I needed more entrepreneurship, more intelligent ideas, more deep work, more systems, more ads, more idea, or more I suppose, frameworks and operating procedures and all this stuff. That stuff is now much more abundant than it's ever been. And it's much more abundant and it's better than I used to be at it. I used to be pretty good at some of this stuff, and I developed my taste and my skill set on some of this stuff. And now Claude, the new Claude model is better than me at most of the stuff that I used to be really good at in my own view. And so now the bottleneck has changed. And so the bottleneck now, and it always was, I mean, it was always an important bottleneck, but the real key bottleneck now is implementation and how hard it is to integrate things with real people in the real world. And so, as we have this capability overhang, a really important mental model for us to have that's kind of fresh on the field is okay, this thing was scarce, now it's abundant. And now, what is really scarce is getting people to use something consistently, integrating it on a team when we're doing real activity in the real world with our hands in a house. And what do we do then? And so the distinction that we should look at when we're looking at this capability overhang is like, oh, wow, I can improve anything I want. I can make a better way to do almost anything if I was the one that created it, because this thing is more capable than me at creating ways to do things. But what will slow me down is I can only ask a person to remember to do one new thing at a time, realistically, if I'm going to make it consistent. And so this checklist that I mentioned earlier, I think this is a very worthwhile thing. It's going to be really valuable. It's going to drive results. I can only ask my installers to remember one new thing at a time. And so it's going to be the checklist this coming 2 months before I can do anything else. You have to pick your shots when you're managing people and asking them to remember to do something.
Yeah.
But what's different than that is these changes I made to my website with SEO, zero implementation cost, zero integration cost. Nobody needs to remember to have this new blog on my website or this FAQ section on my website or this optimization in the back end of my website's code base. Nobody has to remember anything on my team. It just functions, it's done, it's there. The same with my Google Ads budget, my Meta Ads budget. Nobody on my team has to remember to allow those optimizations to continue to be there. And same with when I design a new print ad, I'm going to create the design, ship it to the magazine. It's going to be in there for 10 months. Nobody on my team needs to remember anything about this. It's done and there's zero implementation costs. And so this is the key thing for us to have a distinction. Everything we do now that we can utilize as capability overhang to improve how we're doing something, we need to ask ourselves the question of, where is an area where something's highly leveraged? I can improve the result in a way that's really key to my business's finances or key KPIs or scorecard or whatever without needing to ask people to remember something new, without any integration cost or with very, very minimal integration cost. Those are the lowest hanging fruits we have. We can deploy 10 of those in a week and nobody in our team needs to get burdened and distracted and take away from what they're focusing on and all of this stuff. It doesn't have to fracture everybody's attention because it can just get deployed and set and improved in the background, and it's just an asset that will continue to produce. Whereas something that I need to implement, remember, somebody has to change how they do a core process of their job, I have to choose my battles. And so I better prioritize and it better cross a really high bar for it to be worth it for that. And all of these things that I don't have to ask anybody to remember anything, I can deploy 10 of those a week. And so let me find all of those and utilize the overhang there aggressively, deploy it, ship it, create it. Let me find those opportunities to take my data, my goals, my processes, my ability to gather more data, and then improve the stuff I'm doing in the background that does not have to impose anything on my employees. They can continue doing their job, but they're just boosted in the background. This is the distinction between opportunities where the capability overhang can just get totally mass deployed versus where we have to take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Any thoughts from you about integration as it relates to actually turning what's possible into reality?
Well, it's always transformation requires always people to transform and adapt as well. So even with digitalization, it was about changing habits of the people who use the technology to help your business in this specific way. And with AI transformation in your company, it will be the same. It is a people challenge, and you need to be able to focus on what you give to them as a new challenge to grow. And it should be highly effective. It should better be effective. And like you said, you have to choose your battles, right? And to make it worthwhile. And therefore, it's also much slower. The adoption, what you can do as an entrepreneur, is much more than what you can impose on your company. And there will be people in your company who use AI a lot. just collect these people and get together with them. And then it needs to be a combination of like top down and bottom up approach, where you can collaborate on how to bring this technology, this capability, this intelligence on tap to your company in a way which also the troops on the ground, the people in the trenches know their ways around with. They know the details. They know where the data is. They can rename the files and they can organize the context and so on. Combine the top-down approach with the bottom-up approach to get a better yield of the opportunities we have right now. And you will be ahead of your competition as well if you do it right. And there's another quote by Ethan Mollick. You shoot it at me. I'll read that shortly. The gains in AI model capability will continue to grow much faster than A, the vast majority of people's understanding of what AI can do, and B, the organization's ability to absorb the pace of change. Social change is slower than technological change. And with that, anything you want to add, Peyton?
Just have a question for you as a totally selfish question. As I'm thinking about upskilling my employees with AI, my two questions are, one, should I focus on the people that I think are already furthest along on this journey and the leaders of the company that are just extremely high bandwidth individuals? Or should I focus on getting the most amount of people in the organization on this? So should I focus on the three that are the leaders of the company that are already half adopted? Or should I focus on the 15 people in the company that might be very limited adoption so far and try to get them to using it consistently? What's the better opportunity?
Better opportunity, my friend, is focus on your strength. Focus on the people who are already going along the journey and focus on making them AI-driven leaders. Question with AI, question themselves and question the system and improve the system according to their view and to their knowledge and to their taste as well and their ability, so that they can utilize their strength in viewing the whole system, improving the system, and afterwards looking at which kind of opportunities show up for the people to use AI and to be augmented with AI. So focus on your strength and take the people along which are already coming along, because they're also probably in any sufficiently big company, there will be people who avoid going along that trajectory. And do not focus on them. Do not waste your energy with them. Just put your nutrition and energy into what already is growing. This is my
This is good advice.
advice. Thank you, my friend.
Well, that's my intention for the week. I have two. One is I'm really curious to do a more thorough audit about, like, I'm so excited about some of these areas that this new advance in the level of the state of the art and knowledge work has gotten, where I can improve this by 30%, I can improve this by 40%, I can create a much better version of this that's very easy to deploy. And so finding more low-hanging fruit this week to just connect problem with solution with no implementation cost. This is one I'm really excited to turn over more stones and to find more opportunities. The second is what we just talked about on how can I be more intentional about empowering my leaders to step up and to show them, hey, I use it this way, and to create a good continual development among us for how we're taking this to the next level of AI. So excited to push that further in the week to come. What about you? What are your intentions?
Yeah, as well, finding the opportunities where the overhang is there in my business and my personal life, where it's underutilized, and focus on the things which are most effective and also the things which I enjoy most. So finding a great mix with that. And how can I systemize that afterwards to bring it to other companies as well? So that
Nice.
was AIDEAS Podcast with Peyton Sakrick and me, Johannes Ortloff. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, follow, subscribe, and see you soon.
Yes. Choose.
Tschüss.